What's up, guys? Welcome to the King Closer Reacts. I am the King Closer, RJ Bates III. This is the series where we're going to go through a series of videos and we're going to see if other people know what the hell they're talking about in the wholesaling industry. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. I'll see you about the first video.
If you're struggling to do 10, 20, even 30 wholesale deals a month, here's why. The first step is you gotta have the deal under contract. You probably know how to market to get a deal, but the secret sauce is the buyer. You have to have a solid buyers list that you can sell your wholesale deals to. The best way to find the buyers in your local area quickly is join every real estate investment wholesale REI group on Facebook, right? From there, you should be able to search who's looking for deals, and people have already posted, where's my buyers at? Just go and copy all their email addresses, message them separately, add them to your MailChimp or email campaign, and send them your deal.
All right, so it's a little bit old school, and I agree. This used to be the way that we would build our buyers list, and quite frankly, a buyers list used to be an important part of running a wholesale operation. Nowadays, I don't necessarily think it's as important because we have the softwares like Investor Lift, Deal Speed, Investor Base. They already tell us who are the buyers, what properties have they purchased, what did they buy them for, how long did they own them, and what did they sell them for. So nowadays, we don't necessarily need to build our own buyers list. This is what has enabled us to be a nationwide wholesaler, where I could get a deal in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, and then I could go on Investor Base and I could say, hey, who's bought properties in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota? Oh, these guys right here. This is their contact information. This is how much they paid for them. I'm just going to contact them. So you don't have to do that nowadays. This would be the more old school free way of doing things, but you're not utilizing the technology that's available to you nowadays.
Struggling to close consistent deals in real estate, this is what you're doing wrong. The problem is that you're finding one deal, you're going ahead, you're closing on the property, you're stabilizing the property, so you're renovating it, putting tenants in it, or putting it on Airbnb. And then that process usually takes you anywhere from 6 months to a year. So then the year passes by and you're like, okay, I only did one real estate deal, right? Not only that, but you're probably broke and out of cash from all the work that you've had to do to the property. So this is what you should do instead. And you might be asking why. So what you want to do is learn how to market and sell properties to other investors and create a predictable system where you have leads consistently coming in, right? And once you master the art of finding deals over and over again, then you can go ahead and start your career as a buy and hold investor and start holding real estate or start fixing and flipping. That's why I always recommend start with wholesaling. Get good at finding deals. Or when you're a real estate investor, right? You make money the day that you purchase the property. And by this, what I mean is you should be buying real estate at a price where if you had to sell it tomorrow, struggling.
Interesting. So I definitely agree with what she's talking about with the buy and hold. You purchase the property and then you have to do the work to stabilize it and then get it tenant occupied, and how long that takes, and really how detrimental on the cash flow side of your business that can be. That being said, I don't like the narrative that we spin inside of the real estate industry that if you wholesale, you're doing that to build up your skill sets and your cash and all of that to then become something else. You don't have to be something else, guys. It's okay to just do wholesaling and make that a very sustainable business over the course of time. And then if you want to start a new business, a buy and hold rental property business or an Airbnb business, you can do that. That's a whole separate business with different people, different needs, different SOPs, okay? You don't have to strive to be that. It's okay to just be a wholesaler.
If you live in a state that has any wholesale regulations, you're probably going to want to work with a transactional funding company just to make sure that everything you're doing is above board and that you don't have to worry about any licensing requirements or any minimum number of days to hold a property. These kinds of things can add all kinds of complexity to your deal. So my opinion is, if, like, just say for instance, you're in Illinois or Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, you need a wholesaler's license in order to wholesale property. So you got to apply, pay the state, and that allows you to then do assignments. But if you use transactional funding, you don't have to worry about the licensing. In Illinois, you have to actually be a licensed real estate agent if you want to wholesale. they allow you to do one assignment every year, but you can't turn a business out of one assignment. So the other thing you could do is work with a transactional funding company, and that way you don't need a license. So transactional funding can come in and solve that problem.
Okay, so Jamil is correct in the fact that transactional funding can be very beneficial in some of these states with regulations. You can also do double closes in some states as a pass-through where you don't have to have transactional funding. However, I think what he's talking about on some of these is not necessarily the same day double closes. Maybe what he's talking about is that you actually take title, you hold on to it for a very small period of time, and then you do your second close. That's where I would definitely agree. But anytime you do a double close, if you can ask the title company if they will do a pass-through double close where they're using the funds from the end buyer to fund your purchase on the A to B contract, and then the B to C contract is closed and you receive the difference, that is the most ideal way to do a double close.
Wholesaling versus wholesaling, what really is the difference? In a wholesale, you, the investor, never take ownership or deed to the title. You just assign your interests in the contract. Wholesaling generally involves the investor actually purchasing and taking ownership of the property. They fix it up, maybe they don't, and then immediately listing it on the MLS. So it's an issue of ownership.
Yes, I completely agree. And here's the thing, there is liability that comes along with wholesaling. When you do that, you actually have to get utilities turned on, you're gonna have to take insurance on the property, and then you're gonna rely on that property to be sold on the MLS or for sale by owner, I guess you could do that. But you don't know that you're gonna get those offers. You don't really know what you're going to sell that property for when you go to wholesale. However, when you're wholesaling, you're very much protected within your inspection period and knowing whether or not you're going to be able to profit on that deal prior to your inspection period expiring. This is one of the benefits of wholesaling. Yes, you make less money than wholesaling, but you have a lot less liability as a company.
A lead manager is mainly all about Podio. So they'll be managing your Podio. They'll be updating your Podio. Whenever your sales rep or your acquisition manager can't close a deal, what they're going to do is they're going to send offers over to those sellers anyway, even though they're not motivated, because you never know, that may turn into a deal later on down the line. And they just show them that, okay, this person is actually serious. They sent me over an offer for my property. Another thing that they could potentially do is once you close on a deal, they can send thank you cards or send something that saying, hey, if you send a referral, I'll pay you $500. They can be responsible for that type of role. So that's basically what a lead manager would do.
Okay, so when he's talking about Podio, he's just meaning the CRM. Managing the CRM, managing the difficult leads, maybe the ones where you made an offer and it got denied, and all these different scenarios that play out. Honestly, my personal opinion and the way that we've managed our wholesale business, we don't utilize the lead manager role. In fact, previously, and one of my favorite things I've ever done content-wise, pardon the disruption, I got into a massive argument with Chris Jefferson and Steve Trang and Eric Brewer about the fact that lead managers are really just an excuse for your closers not to close. Oh man, this seller is really difficult and giving me a ton of pushback. I'll just push this on the lead manager and hope somebody else gets it done. Honestly, we don't ever have a lead manager here. And my argument to those guys was, if lead manager is such an important role, why do I close more deals than you? Aren't those lead managers supposed to be closing so many deals? I don't see it. Maybe there's someone out there that could argue that the lead manager is a fantastic role, but I don't believe in it. I believe in having closers that manage their own queue of leads, and they own those leads until it either ends up in a signed contract or the seller says, I'm never going to sell you my house. That's it. Closers close, baby. All right, guys, that's our episode of The King Closer Reacts. Let me know what you think about my takes inside of the comments. Make sure you like today's video, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.